All right, come on, gorgeous.
Hey.
Most powerful woman in town. All right, are we ready? Okay, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, all of you around the table, for being here. And Nathan, thank you for being here. So first, I just want to thank those of you who are here that have been impacted in some very difficult, terrible ways by the crime problem that we have in LA. And much of it stemming from the fact that we being the county and the district attorney's office, continues to operate in a fashion that is not holding criminals accountable, and in my opinion creating an environment that breeds more crime to happen. And you have all been impacted in the most difficult of ways, and my heart goes out to you, and I know Nathan feels the same way. And we're grateful to all of you to share the stories. We know it takes a lot of courage, especially to do it publicly. I can't even imagine the pain and the agony that you go through on a daily basis. And so we're here in great respect of your courage and of your generosity to share your stories so that we can better LA County and we can get this man elected so that we're preventing those kind of things from happening again and change the trajectory of this great county. So with that, I want to introduce our next district attorney, who I fully endorse, and I'm going to work hard over the next few months to make sure we get you in office, along with a whole bunch of people in Los Angeles. So Nathan, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Rick. You know, we can talk about statistics, about violent crime going up every single year that George Gascon has been in office compared to the year he came into office. Property crimes going up double digits, hate crimes going up over 100%, fentanyl poisonings that are going to kill more 18 to 35-year-olds than anything else out there, the fact that we're the capital of human trafficking. But those are just statistics. What really brings this home, quite candidly, are the stories that we're going to hear today from real-life victims who don't just look at a statistic as a number on a piece of paper, but have actually suffered tragedies themselves, family members, dear friends, neighbors, community members. This is the real-life legacy of George Gascon, who enacted the most extreme pro-criminal, anti-victim policies on his first day in office, even though he had 0 years of experience as a prosecutor. He had never prosecuted a single criminal case in his life. He never defended a single criminal case in his life, yet he thought he knew more than 750 deputy district attorneys that collectively were going to bring thousands of years of experience to the task. He has no desire to listen to them, to learn from them, to lead them. And the result is, sadly, a whole almost endless series of tragedies that we have experienced in this county over the last 3.5 years. We can end that. Everyone who's going to hear this has the power to end this, and it actually comes with voting. Voting on November 5th on the DA's election, voting out George Gascon, and voting in a new district attorney who will go ahead and hold criminals accountable in a smart, sensible way, seek consensus with the prosecutors, seek consensus with law enforcement, and extremely importantly, be the champion of victims. Because victims have nowhere else to turn in the system. A defendant has their own lawyer. There's a judge, there's a jury, but who represents the victims in the criminal justice process? There's only one person that does that, and that's the district attorney and all those prosecutors who come into those courtrooms across this county to try and bring justice for the victims who have suffered at the hands of criminals. I will be that champion again and reestablish the tradition of the district attorney's office as being the champion of victims. So let me turn it back to Rick to introduce the people here at this table.
All right, thank you, Nathan. All right, we're going to hear some very tough, heartbreaking, real stories, and I'm going to start out with a dear woman who I admire greatly, Barbara, who lost 2 sons, and given her courage and her strength, has started an amazing organization called Gentle Giants, and is changing so many lives in Los Angeles who are subject to violence. Barbara, turn it over to you.
My name is Barbara Pritchett. Unfortunately, like Rick said, I'm a mother of 2 murdered children. Actually, last week on June 17th, made 17 years for my youngest son, who was getting off the bus, minding his own business, and the perpetrators came out of an alley and shot and gunned him down. He was in the hospital for 3 days on life support, and I made the hard decision of taking him off life support. Didn't even realize that it was Father's Day. So every Father's Day is different for me and for his dad. But on Father's Day, on June 17th, we took him off life support. Actually, tomorrow will make 17 years ago that I buried him, and I'm also in court tomorrow because of George Gascon. My oldest son was murdered July 17th of 2016, standing in front of our home. That case is still unsolved. So I'm here because we got to figure this out, and we got to make it better than what it is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Hi, my name is Mary Klein, and I live in the Canals, and I was working as a nurse. Came home after a night shift and went to finish up my 1,000 steps, walking on the board on the Venice Canals walkways. And out of the blue was attacked from behind, knocked over, rendered unconscious, raped, kicked in the head numerous times. I tried to get up a few times over the time of an hour, and each time I was attacked. So I laid back down, and I think he thought I was dead, and he left. He stood on my chest for a few minutes and then left and walked away, and found another victim, Sarah Alden, and he hit her in the back of the head with a giant bottle. I'm not sure what he hit her with, but he hit her with something, knocked her to the ground, raped, assaulted, terrorized her, dragged her body 30 feet. She passed away last month from a brain bleed. I'm here to say that in that month that happened to me, there were at least 10 assaults that just in my area by people the person who assaulted me was a transient. That was April 6th. April 13th, we had a metro assault on a 70-year-old man, and then another metro assault on a different day where a bus driver was stabbed. Then another metro assault on April 22nd, where a Studio City 66-year-old was fatally stabbed. May 13th, now we're into May, a jogger was attempted to have been raped in Santa Monica, pulled by the ponytail into the bathrooms by unhoused Malcolm Ward. May 15th, more metro stabbings. Can't keep track of how many. May 17th, unhoused woman high on drugs drives a white van into the 405 freeway and hits 4 cars at top speed. May 19th, we're still in May. We're not even halfway through May. 2 German tourists were stabbed outside a restaurant by someone they don't know, a transient individual. May 23rd, 2 children were, May 23rd, an unhoused person knocked over a 73-year-old woman onto the ground, sending her to the hospital. March 14th, I'm backtracking a little bit, two children were knocked out on different days walking on the boardwalk in Santa Monica. This was March, before my assault. Just yesterday, an unhoused individual attempted to drown a woman on the beach, and the lifeguard had to save her life. This is just yesterday, June 24th. I'm saying we need to do more for our community. Why are we paying taxes if we're saying we can't protect our own people? The first order of government is to protect the people, and I think you two understand that. And I think that we need to hold our officials, our government officials, our city councils, who are doing a good job now. They're doing a great job with City Park, but with Tracy Park. But all of our district attorney needs to take into account that their first job is to protect the public. And that's what I'm trying to say is that's why I'm here, is we're not protecting our public, and we have to fund our police, refund our police, and protect the public. Number one job of government.
Thank you very much. Sorry for what happened to you.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Well, I appreciate your saying you're sorry. We need to hold everyone accountable.
Yes, we do.
And I know you understand that.
Yes, we do. And that's why we need to change. There's no doubt. All right, Keisha.
My name is Keisha Rivers, and Calvin Peele was my son. Calvin was going to visit his sister in the projects, in the Nixon Garden projects where we grew up, so everybody familiar with Calvin and his condition. Everybody knew he was disabled, but they was having a gang retaliation thing. So that day, my son was taking his son some school clothes, and as he was walking back with his son, somebody just pulled up and shot him and killed him in front of his son. And the word got out who did it. You know, word got out, but you can't go by word. So the detective called me in the office, and she told me she know who killed my kid. She looked me in my eye and said, I know who killed your kid, but I don't have enough evidence to convict him. I have to live with this every day because you know it can't do nothing. A year later, he killed someone else, and he's in jail for someone else, but not my kid. But they know he did it. And I just want justice for Calvin. That's it.
This is our son. This is our son.
Beautiful son.
And he was not a gang member at all. It was just a young black guy walking down the street, got shot. Just want justice for Calvin.
My name's Emma Rivas, and December 7, 2020, George Gascon took office, and my nightmare began. My son was shot. Two of my sons were shot in front of my Torrance home in California, which is supposed to be a safe city. My nightmare began. As soon as he took office, I got a phone call from the prosecutors that they would be dropping the gun enhancement and the gang enhancement. Those are two important directives that make a big difference in your case. Gascon took it upon himself to not even look at my son's case. He went ahead and ordered my attorney to remove, the prosecutor to remove it, and that's where my heartache began, and I became a victim again of a crime that my child was murdered in front of my own house. I have been on 2 recalls to remove Gascon, and I lost faith in my DA, George Gascon, because he's supposed to protect me, but he made my life worse than better. That's why I really believe that Nathan Hochmann is going to do the right thing, and I'm going to go hard for him because we need someone that believes in the victims. We need someone that's going to fight for us, and Nathan has shown that he's going to do that. And I want to thank you personally, Nathan, that you have taken the time to listen to my story. And thank you, Rick, for inviting us to this roundtable today. But I believe that if we can get Nathan Hochmann for our next DA, I think that a lot of the victims will have better outcomes in their cases. The guy that murdered my kid got 20 years less sentence than he was supposed to. But I want to thank you.
Emma, thank you. So sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My name is Albertina Williams. My son and my daughter both were killed. My son was shot 2004. My daughter was hit by a hit and run 2013. I got a call this year in January for my son. The case was already closed and everything. They had gave the boy 52 years to life. Had to go to court. They dropped it down to where he's getting out in 2 years. He was coming home from the store and got shot in his back. My daughter, same way, she was coming across the street from the store and she got hit and they kept moving. These are my son was my firstborn, my daughter is my only daughter. And they have a baby brother. They used to look up to him. But I feel loose, whatever his whatever that governor, he's wrong for taking off to have the young man that killed my child, or whoever, he killed my child, to give him a slap on the wrist. He should do the time. He hasn't did no rehabilitating, none of that. Either way it go, you did the crime. You have to do the time. And I feel it's wrong. It's like he opened up a whole case of worms. And my daughter, they still haven't found her killer. This is my daughter Janava, and this is my daughter Brian Williams.
So sorry. So sorry. Thank you for being here.
My name is Jane Buffard. My brother and I are here today. Our parents were murdered in their Southgate home during a home invasion robbery in 1996. The perpetrator was caught, a guy from the neighborhood, and he was, trial was in Norwalk Superior Court. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and robbery and sentenced to death. And he's been on death row for 27 years. With Gascon in office, they started the resentencing about 6 months after Gascon was sworn in. I received a phone call that they wanted to talk to me. The district attorney's office here in Los Angeles wanted to talk to me regarding resentencing. And Tom?
Well, that got really nowhere. But we've spent almost all of 2022 and almost all of 2023 in the Norwalk Superior Court, Department H, trying to listen to what they had filed appeals on intellectual disability, because they figured that he flunked the 5th grade, so that they came up with this intellectual disability. And that went on, and then while that was being processed, then they moved, we also had to appear in Court G for 1172.1, which was a new law that got passed up in San Francisco, which said if a prisoner has been in jail for 20 years, has been a good boy, he can be resentenced. If a district attorney, the sheriff, and the warden, I think it was, if they all recommend that he can be resentenced. Well, finally, in December, the judge finally resentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But as my sister said, it just doesn't make sense, because my mother and father, in their home, they were brutally murdered. It wasn't just a murder. Both of them were stabbed in excess of 27 times, which means somebody just was very, very brutal about it. But that doesn't matter. Things change, and that's what they go by. And because of the fact that, nothing against the Mexican people, but he was Mexican. He grew up in Mexico. Then he would go to school a little while in New Mexico, where his native language was Spanish. Now he's being taught in English, which created a problem, so he flunked the 5th grade. Then he would move back to Mexico, and he'd just go back and forth. Even at one time, they told us during the trial that at one time in Mexico, he served as a deputy sheriff. So, but as it stands right now, because San Quentin is closing down, he's now been resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and he's been moved to Wasco rather than San Quentin.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, we're going to wrap up with LaWanda Hawkins, who over the years has become a dear friend. But her tragic story is her son was murdered at the age of 19, and the son's murderer has never been caught. And she is the founder for one of the most dramatic and true names of an organization that just gets to your heart, Justice for Murdered Children. And so with that, I want to introduce an amazing civic leader, LaWanda Hawkins. Thanks for being here, LaWanda.
Thank you for inviting me, Rick. I'm truly thankful. I stand before you as one of the 3 signers of the California Crime Victims' Rights Bill, also known as Marsy's Law. More importantly, I stand here as an advocate for justice and the rights of crime victims. Today, I'm here to address the urgent need for change in the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office and to speak out against the harmful policies of the District Attorney current office. This is not about politics. It's about justice, dignity, and the protection of crime victims' rights. Under the current administration, we have witnessed a troubling departure from the principles of justice and victim support. Crime victims have been abandoned, their rights neglected, and their voices silenced. One of the most glaring examples of their neglect is the decision to prohibit deputy district attorneys from attending parole hearings. This policy leaves victims and their families without representation, without a voice, and without the support they so desperately need and deserve. Imagine, if you will, a mother who has suffered the unimaginable, having a child murdered, as she prepares mentally to face the parole board, hoping to assure that the person responsible for the murder of her child remains in prison. She finds herself alone without an advocate in this cold room from the district attorney's office. Then she is asked to sit at a table directly across from the perpetrator and his attorney. No attorney for the victim, or to log in on the website where she can see the murder and his attorney. This is not just a lack of support, it's a profound of injustice here in LA County. This abandonment extends to all victims, including those who have survived horrific crimes such as rape. Consider a teenager rape victim, already traumatized by the crime, now forced to face the rapist at a parole hearing without any representation? This is unimaginable, but it's happening here in LA County. This is not just neglect, it's a violation of the dignity and respect that victims are guaranteed under Marcy's Law. As one of the 3 signers of the California Crime Victims' Rights Bill of 2008, I'm appalled and deeply disappointed by the current administration disregard for these fundamental rights. Marcy Law was established to ensure that crime victims are treated with dignity and respect. This is the first right, that their voices are heard and their rights are upheld. This current policy of not sending prosecutors to parole hearings fouls in the face of those principles. It is essential to understand that the presence of prosecutors at parole hearing is not merely a procedural formality. Can you imagine being in front of a judge or anyone without representation? They're making sure that the perpetrator has it, but we're there by ourselves. None of us are attorneys. We have never went to school to learn this. We don't know how to represent ourselves. That's why we elected a DA. That's their responsibility to represent us. But what's happening right now in LA County, we're out there by ourselves trying to figure it out at a parole hearing, which is one of the most important hearings. This deals with public safety for everyone because these people have the right to travel. It is a critical component of the justice system, ensuring that the interests of victims and public safety are represented. Just as criminals are entitled to defense attorneys, victims deserve advocates who will fight for their rights and ensure that parole boards have all the necessary information to make informed decisions. Because the parole board needs to hear from both sides. We need to be able to question the inmate to make sure that they're capable for being released. And when we don't have no representation, no one's questioned them. So they've been sent back in our community, and most of the time they send back into minority community, and we're being the ones victimized by this type of behavior. Unacceptable. Sorry, you guys. Nathan Hochmann, who is running for the Los Angeles District Attorney, understands these fundamental truths. He knows that a district attorney office must stand with crime victims like us, not abandon us. While I'm not here to endorse any candidate at this time, I'm here to support my friend Rick Caruso, who is endorsing Nathan Hochmann because of his commitment to restoring the integrity of the Los Angeles County District Attorney Office, ensuring that crime victims are supported, respected, and given the representation they deserve. Our county needs a leader like Nathan Hochmann who prioritizes the rights of victims, ensures public safety, and upholds the principle of justice. I urge all of us to support policies and leaders like Nathan that will make this a reality. We owe it to the victims and their families to stand up, speak out, and demand the respect and justice they deserve.
Well done. You're good, Chris. All right,
girl,
I want
good
to
girl.
thank all the participants. I want to open it up to the press corps. If there's any questions for any of our guests and Nathan, now's a good time to do it.
So in 2020, George Gascon came into office based on 3 promises. The first promise is that he was going to let out violent and serious criminals before they served their full sentences. He's actually kept that promise. The second promise is that he wasn't going to prosecute violent and serious criminals to the full extent of the law. He's kept that promise. But he made a third and arguably the most important promise, that if he did the first 2, our safety in this community was going to get better rather than worse. So what has changed between 2020 and 2024 is that when Gascon came in 2020, sure, he had a record of destroying San Francisco's safety that no one was paying attention to, but he had promises, and those promises occurred during a summer where we were dealing with the George Floyd incident, where we were dealing with defund the police, where we were dealing with protests and riots in the streets. So he comes in marching on the white horse, making these 3 promises, and he has failed on the promise of keeping us safe. And now we have data, we have evidence of violent crimes rising every single year compared to the year he went into office, property crimes going up by double digits, hate crimes over 100%, fentanyl poisonings, killing more 18 to 35-year-olds than anything else, human trafficking at record levels, epidemic homeless crisis and crime. So again, what the voters, and these voters are going to hear these real-life stories. These real-life stories weren't there in 2020 because his social experiment had not been run at that point. We've now run that social experiment for 3.5 years, and now we have the evidence to show that it has failed. And I think if you ask voters across this county, either themselves, their family member, dear friend, community member, or neighbor has actually personally suffered from one aspect of these crimes, we don't have to talk about statistics anymore. We can talk about real life stories. And those real life stories is what is going to get George Gascon voted out of office.
That's a darn good answer. I don't know if I can add more. Listen, I think at the end of the day, I know all of you. I'm a very practical person. He's been given a chance. He's failed. His leadership has failed. His policies have failed. There is nobody that I have talked to around this county that feels safer, feels better, or feels like we're on the right track. And you got to change it. It's as simple as that, because we are creating an environment where people don't feel safe. They're not safe. It affects small businesses. It affects quality of life. And like everybody here at the table, it has real life consequences. I mean, people have lost their loved ones. What more do you need to go? And it continues to get worse. And so you have to ask your question. The question is the fundamental question. If you had 4 more years of George Gascon, is it going to get better? Are you going to feel safer? Is your community going to be better? Is your business going to be better? Are your employees going to be able to ride Metro and feel safe? Are you going to be able to let your kids out and play and not worry about it? The answer is clearly no. You would just go on the trajectory of where we're at today. So I think it's the most consequential election in California.
So just to follow up, speaking to a lot of police officers, they say, and please school me in how it's done, because a lot of times they say it's also, they're not getting tough enough sentences, and they say it's the judge is not giving enough sentences. So, I mean, is it your prosecutor, making felony charges into misdemeanors, and then the judge has no choice but to give a light sentence, or, how does that go? Is it all on the DA, or is it on these judges as well?
Let me take that. I have spoken. I'm the co-founder of the LA Sheriff's Foundation. I've had a chance to speak to hundreds of deputies, hundreds of LAPD officers, local police departments throughout the entire county. I will tell you, they're not blaming judges. That the demoralization they feel is not directed at light sentences being given by judges, but by a DA's office that determines, before the facts and the law are considered, that there are certain crimes and certain criminals that he will not prosecute. Now, typically, all a DA does is they say, give me the facts, we'll apply it to the law, we'll make our decision. But George Gascon has superseded a personal political extreme agenda on top of that, a filter, shall you say. And he's basically saying, I don't care what the facts are, I don't care what the law says, that if you're a juvenile and you steal under $950, we're not prosecuting that misdemeanor theft case. That if you're a part of a gang engaged in a violent crime, we're not going to apply the gang enhancement, as you heard Emma say. That it's even worse. If we've already applied it because Jackie Lacey was actually following the law, we're actually going to remove it from a defendant's charging record to allow that defendant in Emma's case to get out 20 years earlier. A DA's office has as its goal, as Rick has said, and everyone here has said, the safety of the people of the County of Los Angeles, not exercising a social experiment at our peril. So when law enforcement looks at the DA's office, they do not see a partner. They see someone who's actually standing in their way. And it's even worse than that. Gascon has made quite clear that he is more interested in prosecuting police officers than actually partnering with them. So it is already a dangerous job here. It is expensive to live here. Some of the public does not have their back. But when the DA's office is no longer the partner to law enforcement, it's not judges, it's the DA that is responsible for that demoralization of law enforcement officers.
Can I follow up on that? Because that's a great point. So my experience when I was the president of the police commission, and we had a spike in crime before I got there, brought in Bill Bratton. There was so many different elements to reduce the crime in the city, which we did exceptionally well. But the fundamental underpinning was there's partnership between the police force and the district attorney's office. And as Nathan said, if you do not have that, you cannot fight crime. It becomes impossible. And my experience as a business owner, with businesses in LA City, outside of the city, Glendale, etc., every police force complains about the relationship with the district attorney's office in prosecuting crimes. And that's the level of frustration. I think the judge issue is a tangential issue, and frankly, if you have a strong district attorney that's regarded as fair, but is obviously going to hold criminals, especially repeat criminals, accountable, I think the tone and the culture of the judges is going to change. Let's take that chance, by the way. Let's give that experiment a chance. Any other questions? Okay. My heart and prayers, and I mean this sincerely as a father, go out to each and every one of you. I mean, Tina and I love LaWanda, Barbara. They're like family. All of you are part of our family now, too. We stand here with you, and I can just tell you on behalf of my family, if there's anything that we can do to help and support you and be with you, we are here for you, because we have to be a community and we have to stay strong and have each other's back. So thank you for the courage to come out and share your stories. I want to thank the press for taking the time to come out and help tell these stories. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Great.
And vote for Nathan. That's the bottom line.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. Good answers. Well done. All right, team. LaWanda's the best.
I've known LaWanda for many, many years.
Oh my God, I love LaWanda. I tell you, there's one thing. I never want to be on the bad side of LaWanda.
No.
That's not a good place to
for
be.
sure.
That's not a good place to be.